Chaos Uncontrolled, Chapter 8. The story of the Wachowski family. Sonic Wachowski was ecstatic to be back with his brothers again. Sure, he had been apart from them in the time since they had become part of the family, but that had all been voluntary, and they were never too far if needed. This forceful separation had cut deep. He had been right next to them one moment and alone the next. A part of him feared that this was Longclaw all over again. No wonder he caused a blackout. Sonic gripped tightly to his brothers. Neither of them had been hurt and had even made some friends. Things could have gone worse, far worse. Hopefully their life would keep up and their parents were okay. He didn't think any of them could handle it if they weren't. Knuckles gave them one more squeeze before releasing them from the hug. Sonic didn't want to risk being separated again and instinctively grabbed each of their arms.
Do not worry, brother. We are together now, and I will not allow harm to come to either of you.
Knuckles gave his brothers a look of absolute certainty. If anything wanted to split the Wachowskis apart, they'd have to get past Big Bro Knuckles first.
I swear on my honor that we will reunite with mother and father, along with the emerald, and return home. I will not allow us to remain trapped here. That you can count on.
Knuckles put out one of his fists.
A pile of them, for an unbreakable promise.
Tails put out his free hand to join the power bump with a smile.
Yeah.
Sonic rested his fist against the other two's.
Wachowskis!
The room had thankfully remained quiet during their reunion, but the sound of footsteps and the appearance of Chris, Amy, and his counterpart started up an exchange of greetings. Sonic looked at the people present in the room. They were his counterpart, Amy, and Chris, who he was already familiar with. Tails' counterpart sat on the couch, staring at them with a confused expression. He looked almost identical to his younger brother, unlike Sonic and his counterpart, who could believably pass off as two different hedgehogs who were just closely related. Knuckles' counterpart was nowhere to be seen. There were others in the room that Sonic didn't recognize. A bat reclined on the couch watching him, but more so Knuckles with intrigue. A young rabbit girl sat on the floor with a strange blue creature in her lap. He'd never seen anything like it before. There were also a few humans in the room. Excluding Chris, there were three. A man in a racing gear, a woman in an apron with a warm expression, and an old man that looked like he could be the photographic example of an eccentric scientist. Amy brushed off her dress and walked over to Rouge.
Rouge, can you move over?
Why? There's plenty of other seats.
You are taking up the whole couch. It's unfair.
Rouge rolled her eyes and swung her legs off the couch.
Fine, I was just getting up anyway.
Rouge smirked, walked over to Sonic and his brothers, and held a hand out to them.
The name's Rouge. Rouge the Bat.
Tails and Sonic took her hand and shook it, but Knuckles just stood still, looking conflicted. Sonic had talked to him a little while ago about the whole bone-crushing handshake thing, and Knuckles hadn't gotten a handle on how gentle he had to be yet.
No need to be shy. I don't bite.
I am not afraid of you biting me.
Aw, then does Low Red have a crush?
Rouge cast her smirk up and spoke with a teasing tone.
You are correct. I had been told I crush people's hands. That is why I did not shake Christopher's hand earlier, and why I'm not going to shake yours.
It's alright, I'm a big girl. I can take it.
Knuckles looked at her hand and hesitantly reached out.
You got this, Knuckles.
Yeah, nice and gentle.
At his brother's reassurance, Knuckles grabbed and shook Rouge's hand. The crack noise was audible through the entire room. Sonic hissed in a breath.
I guess you don't got this.
I am sorry, Lady Rouge. I was trying to be gentle.
Rouge was rubbing her hand with a pained expression.
Don't worry about it, Red. Nothing's broken.
That's an improvement at least.
Sonic could vividly remember the bruise that formed on his hand from Knuckles' handshake.
If that's you being gentle, I'd hate to see it when you're being tough.
I am trained in lethal combat, won countless battles, and have been granted the title of the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy. Your concern is reasonable.
The rest of the room had no clue how to process that, and looked to Sonic to confirm it.
Yeah, he's not lying or exaggerating at all.
All right then.
Sam's voice was strained and he started to keep a very close eye on Knuckles.
Well, you certainly are interesting. But the Nucky I know is far more fun to get rise out of.
Rouge tossed her head back and crossed her arms. Knuckles looked back at Sonic with a still puzzled expression. He didn't have any good answer for his brother and just shrugged.
So now that we're all here, didn't you say you were going to tell us about how you met?
We are not all here. My counterpart is not present.
Don't worry about that. Our pal Knuckles has a habit of showing up randomly at the right place and right time. He should be here soon.
And Tanaka is not back from collecting my car. Are you two aware that your little brother stole my car?
Sonic peered down at his brother.
Seriously, Tails, another one.
Another? You mean he's done this before?
Everyone had their eyes on his little brother.
Yes, I believe this is the third time he has done such a thing.
Yep, and he crashed both of them within the hour.
Sonic playfully elbowed his Tails in the side.
Hey, in my defense, the plane was attacked and the police car was on purpose.
We did that on purpose.
Knuckles had been picked up by Tanaka on his way to the Thorndikes. As the car got closer, Knuckles was getting a clearer picture of the chaos energy. It felt slightly different to what he was used to. The alternate universe theory had a bit more weight to it. The chaos energy was coming from 3 different sources that were extremely close together. Knuckles focused on them and growled when he didn't get much more information.
Are you alright, Mr. Knuckles?
I'm fine, just keep driving.
You know, Mr. Knuckles, I'm quite looking forward to meeting these other versions. Miss Topaz tells me Tails' counterpart gave them quite the run around last night.
And apparently Sonic's caused the blackout. I wanna know how he caused that.
Even though Tanaka's focus was fully on the road, Knuckles could practically feel how much the butler wanted to say something.
What?
Forgive me, Mr. Knuckles, but I was wondering if you have given your counterpart much thought.
Knuckles had, but only briefly. Other him would be Echidna, that was obvious. But was he the last one in his world too? If so, does he even know about what happened? Mr. Tanaka must have sensed some kind of distress from him and spoke up.
I know you have a preference for your own space, Mr. Knuckles, but you aren't alone. They all care an awful lot about you.
Well, they have a funny way of showing it.
Knuckles grumbled under his breath. They would never listen to him. If he had any complaints, they would all gang up on him. Even the pure kind little cream would join in.
I won't lie, Mr. Knuckles. You can be hard to get along with sometimes. You can be brash and rude at times, and it could take a lot of pushing to get you to do something with us when it's not an emergency. But even though all that, you have a good heart. You're just, for lack of a better term, prickly.
Hey, what's that supposed to mean?
I simply mean that like the hedgehogs, porcupines, and echidnas of this world, when you feel threatened, you put up your defenses and make it hard to reach you.
Are you implying that I'm afraid of Sonic and the others? They don't scare me in the slightest.
There are many different kinds of fear, Mr. Knuckles.
Wait, Knuckles knew what this was.
Hey, I didn't agree to a love for this to become a therapy session.
Knuckles leaned back into his chair and made a very clear show of turning away from Mr. Tanaka and staring out the window. Thankfully, he kept quiet and the rest of the drive was spent in silence.
Mr. Knuckles, we're here.
Knuckles got out of the car and didn't wait for Tanaka to follow after him. He could feel the intense pulses of chaos energy from inside the house, and they were spiking up right now. His senses led him to the living room, which door was currently closed. An unfamiliar voice sounded from within it.
We did that on purpose.
When Knuckles opened the door, there were plenty of people he knew, but he didn't care about that right now. His entire focus was on the trio in the center of the room. It was Sonic, Tails, and himself, They all had differences to what he was familiar with, Sonic's arm being a notable example. But they were unmistakably them, and they were exactly what he was sensing, the chaos energy. But he couldn't see any chaos emeralds on them. The trio hadn't even noticed his presence, and were instead too focused on an argument between themselves.
I told you I had a plan, didn't I?
I didn't think it was drive off a cliff.
Wait, what? Was he missing something? What was this other Tails plan being drive off a cliff? Knuckles looked around the room to ask someone for context, but everyone else looked just as he was.
I took the wheel from you and drove straight off the cliff. What did you think I was doing?
I don't know, but I thought it was an accident.
This just proves I'm the most responsible brother.
Knuckles looked around to see if anyone had caught what his dimple had said. If they had, no one was showing it.
You jumped off a plane, remember?
Other Sonic dramatically whipped around from other Tails to other Knuckles.
I knew what I was doing.
We were in the middle of planning.
Other Sonic threw his hands up in exasperation.
Sonic, your plan was to taunt him. That was it. You were basically swinging a baseball bat at a wasp's nest and hoping for the best.
Other Tails had quickly jumped in with this point, and after that the three of them started to talk over each other, and Knuckles could no longer tell what any of them were saying. Knuckles had way more questions than he had before seeing them. Did other him call them brothers? Surely he must have heard wrong. Sonic was an annoying but decent ally at best, and Tails was nice. And what was this whole conversation even about? All he managed to catch was that other Tails had intentionally driven them off a cliff for some reason, and his counterpart jumped off a plane during some kind of planning. Most of the rest of the room looked as confused and curious as him. One notable outlier was Chris, Uncle Sam, who was watching the argument like it was perfectly normal.
Oh hey, Knuckles, glad you're here.
Hello, Sonic. Any clue what's with those three?
No, this is the second time they've done this too.
Should we do something?
Nah, not really.
All attention, other than the trios, whose conversation had gone to something about a broken face, went to Sam.
What? Uncle Sam, look at them.
Did I ever tell you about the time your mom locks me in the cupboard under the sink? What?
No.
Just ask her how much of an annoying little brother I was, and she would go on and on. But anyway, I really liked this toy truck she had, and I would always take it from her. It got so bad that Dad got me one of my own. It was identical, except for the windows on hers were clear and mine were blue. I still liked hers better and kept trying to take it and replace it with mine. Lindsay didn't care about the windows until I cared, and the two of us would argue for hours about it. And this one time, she had enough and pushed me under the sink and hid it from our parents for 2 hours, I think. Once she was caught, she was grounded, and I got to play with both trucks for the whole week.
Mom did that?
Yeah, she wasn't always perfectly mannered, you know.
That was a great story and all, but what does it have to do with them?
Knuckles gestured over his shoulder at the trio, who were still on about something.
Well, they said they were brothers. This is just the standard sibling argument.
Did you say brothers?
That's what they told us.
Knuckles looked over at the trio, and then to the Sonic and Tails he knew.
How did that happen?
They haven't told us yet.
Knuckles was very interested to know what events could possibly lend to other him calling Sonic and Tails brothers.
Hey, you three!
The trio paused whatever they were talking about and turned to him.
Look, it's you.
Knuckles' counterpart was staring at him with a mixed expression, and his breathing had quickened. Knuckles felt a prickle along his spine as the chaos energy in the room increased, and the air became staticky. As the other echidna took cautious steps towards Knuckles, swore that he saw a red light flash across the other echidna's fist for a second. They were face to face now, and the other Knuckles was looking at him with scrutiny.
You are me,
What gave you that idea?
Other Knuckles seemed to have missed the sarcasm in his voice.
You are an echidna who has the same traits as I do. Sonic and Tails had their own counterparts, and your friends mentioned you and said you would show up soon.
They did they?
Knuckles looked over at the group he was familiar with.
Yes, the Sonic of your world claims that you have a habit of showing up at the right place and time.
Knuckles worked alone and didn't see the others that much, and mostly just showed up when they were in trouble, often jumping in just in time to give them a last-minute save.
I guess I do.
Other Knuckles was shifting his way and staring at him awkwardly.
Hey Knuckles, are you okay?
I will be fine.
Oh, right. Both of you are Knuckles.
The two echidnas matched each other's gaze.
I believe we're in need of nicknames or additional ways to say who's who.
The three of us could just go by Wachowski.
I mean, you could, but for example, saying Knuckles Wachowski every time might get tiring. This is the perfect opportunity to get a cool nickname. I think you should take it.
Oh, we could do theme.
Other Sonic was bouncing on his heels and looking around excitedly.
Why do we have to have a theme exactly?
Because it's cool.
He's got a point, Nucky.
If you dare use Nucky as my nickname, I'm gonna knock your lights out.
Don't you mean knock your lights out?
Knuckles turned around to Other Sonic, who looked very proud of himself. Beside him, Other Tails was laughing into his hand, and Other Knuckles had a big grin on his face.
Ha! Father would be proud.
I can't believe none of us have used that one.
While most of the room was still on the pun, Cream turned to Ella for some clarification.
If they're choosing nicknames, does that mean I can't call them Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails anymore?
Don't you worry, Crane. It'll just be like how we call Christopher Chris. This is just a way to say which one you're talking about without having to say something like the other one or the one I know. I'm sure that if it's obvious who you're talking about, or two, you could just use their name.
Can we please pick nicknames and just move on?
Knuckles put his head on his hands in exasperation. He just wanted his questions answered.
Well, for one thing, the Sonic we know has to be Cobalt. It's perfect.
How I can be? Sure.
Yeah, that works.
The two Tails looked at each other.
I'm slightly yellower.
And I'm slightly oranger.
If they weren't standing next to each other, and you had only seen them a couple times, the difference in shade wouldn't be noticeable. But right now, linking between them, it was noticeable enough.
We're settled.
Really? You're just gonna go with the basic colors names?
Cyrus, but
Nope, we have to be more creative than that. We can't just have the Sonics going around with nicknames like Azure and Cobalt, and you two just using yellow and orange.
right then. What do you suggest, Rouge?
How about Amber and Citri?
Rouge pointed to the orange tails and then to the yellow tails. The two tails looked at each other and nodded.
That does sound cooler.
Knuckles ran over the names in his head.
Amber and Citrine. Wait, this was just to give them gemstone-themed nicknames, wasn't it?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I gotta change my name to fit the name.
You have no need to. There is a crystal called azurite, and cobalt is a type of metal.
At Mr. Tanaka's explanation, Azure Sonic's face brightened up.
We absolutely have to keep the theme up for Knuckles. Give go with some red gems.
Gem Gal. Now that's a nickname I can get behind. As for red gems, I'm thinking copper and big spike.
Wait, copper's not a gemstone.
Neither is cobalt, or amber, technically, so it fits just as well. And that means the brothers over there can have a more closely connected crystal theme.
In the background, Azure Sonic happily pumped up his fists with a small yes.
Okay, now that we've got that sorted, and everyone is here, so can you please explain how you guys actually met? Because you three are just giving me more and more questions.
Hold on, one more thing.
What now?
I just thought that since we're going to be listening to their stories, we might as well have some refreshments. I'm going to make everyone a nice hot chocolate.
That did sound good. No one else made any protests. While Ella got them their hot drinks, the trio pulled each other into a quick huddle. and by the time she returned, they seemed to come to a decision. Big Spite Knuckles stepped forward and began the story.
Our story begins in the distant past, when a group of my ancestors came together to forge the Master Emerald.
Who that? What does the creation of the Master Emerald have to do with you three meeting?
I don't know, but according to Azure Sonic here, his creation led to Seatring Tails hitting Big Spite Knuckles with a car.
Ignoring how jarring the nicknames still were, Knuckles couldn't comprehend how the ancient and powerful Master Emerald could have caused such a thing.
Trust us, it'll all make sense soon.
Seatring Tails took a sip of his drink with a happy smile.
As I was saying, my ancestors forged the 7 Chaos Emeralds into the Master Emerald.
Big Spite Knuckles paused when he heard shocked sounds throughout the room. He sent a glare at them so they wouldn't interrupt him again.
To this day, it is unknown why they created it. Every story is contradicted by another. Some say they made it under the order of the gods. Others say they made it in defiance of them. In some stories, it was a last desperate resort to fight an inconceivable foe. And others tell of the Echidnas forging it, so only they would have the power of the Chaos Emeralds, and be able to have the galaxy under their control. But whatever the reason, the Master Emerald's power was feared across the galaxy, for it was a single warrior could defeat an entire army, rewrite reality to their whims.
When Big Spite Knuckles paused, it looked like everyone wanted to say something on what they just heard. They had only just started, and already things were so different. They actually knew the origin of the Master Emerald, and the Echidna had made it. They were pretty sure that it wasn't the same for theirs, because the Master Emerald they knew was definitely not made from the Chaos Emeralds.
The Echidna weren't the only powerful group of warriors in the galaxy. There were also the Owl Warriors. They saw the Echidna and the power the Master Emerald held, and they believed that no one should have that sort of power. I fought to take it. There were a lot of casualties, but the Owls won and hid the Master Emeralds away.
Copper Knuckles felt himself growing angry as the story progressed. In their world, the Echidna created the Master Emerald. It was theirs by right. In his eyes, what the Owls did was unjust, and he got ready to shout. But he stopped himself. Maybe there is more here. They didn't look like they had finished the story yet, and his counterpart did say their motives for creating it was unknown and muddled.
The Echidna saw this act as unjust. Every focused everything on reacquiring the Master Emerald, and were willing to cut down anything that got in their way of getting it back.
Big Spite Knuckles looked down sadly and picked up his mug for another.
Okay, that the ancient history backstory stuff out of the way. Now on to our part.
Azure Sonic paused at the end of his sentence, like the words were stuck in his throat.
Right, our part.
A few red sparks arched across Big Spite's knuckles, and he stared down at his cup with trembling arms. One of the Echidna's fists twitched slightly, and the mug shattered into dust. The mug shattering jolted him out of whatever thoughts had been stressing him out.
Apologies, this is difficult to speak of.
He dropped to his knees and started to gather the shards in his hands.
Here, sweetie, I'll show you where the bin is.
Ella's tone was just as warm as it always was, and she showed no sign of being mad at him. Once he returned from throwing away the remains of the mug, Big Spite Knuckles sat down on the couch next to his pair of brothers. Seatring Tails didn't seem as distressed as the other two, and gave them both a sympathetic look.
Hey, if you want me to, I can start it off.
Both of them nodded.
After many years of battle, all that remained of the two orders was a small tribe of Echidna and a single owl warrior watching over her apprentice.
My tribe had located the last of the Owl Warriors, and we believed we were finally close to returning the Master Emerald to its original home, and relearning all its secrets that had been lost over the long centuries of war. The entire tribe had gathered to prepare for the fight. I too prepared myself, but my father, my blood father that is, stopped me and told me that my moment will come, but it wasn't this moment. I was the only child at the time, so I waited alone in the village for them to return home, victorious. But none of them ever did. No one survived the battle.
The room was silent. No one could come up with anything to say. Quite a few people in the room looked close to tears, and Cream had buried her face into Allah.
The last of the old warriors was my mentor. Her name was Longclaw, and she was amazing. She was good to me. She took me in because of my power. She warned me that people would always want it and try to keep me out of trouble. One day I went further than I normally would. I just wanted to get her a flower. Just to see her smile. That's how they found me, and then Longclaw. I just got back to her, and the echidnas surrounded our home and attacked us. They were all in their war gear and armed with spears and bows. One of them hit her with an arrow and she fell. She opened a ring to a faraway planet and sent me through. That was the last I saw of her.
Azure Sonic curled in on himself, and a few tears formed in his eyes. Big Spike's Knuckles placed a hand on his shoulder, and Azure Sonic leaned into him. The story was heartbreaking. Both their families had destroyed each other. How could they possibly become brothers after that?
Do you boys need a moment?
No, we can keep going. Most of the sad parts are done now. So after Longclaw sent me through the ring, I landed near an amazing little town, Green Hills. And that's where I grew up. I had a great little camp set up out in the woods, and I could hang around the town and hang out with everyone, even if only one guy actually knew I existed.
Azure Sonic looked a bit happier talking about the town.
After the loss of my tribe, I chose to do what they could not. I returned the Master Emerald to the home of my people. So for those 10 years, I searched the galaxy for any sign of it. In my search, I went up to many planets and encountered many obstacles. There are many stories I could tell of my journey. Too many to tell right now. Perhaps another day.
Hold on. Sorry to interrupt, but did you say 10 years?
Yeah, that's about how long it was between that day and meeting up with Mom and Dad. Give or take a few months.
The room stayed quiet. No one was sure what to say. 10 years was a long time, even longer to anyone who's under 30.
Pardon me if it's too much of a crying question, but how old are you boys?
I'm 8.
I'm 13.
I turned 15 a few months ago.
Hey, that means I'm older than you.
That means you were getting beaten by a younger version of your friend. That's gotta be embarrassing.
Hey, our little battle was actually pretty evenly matched, you know.
It was not. I chose to hold back. If I had the intention to kill you, I would have, easily. You are doubting my ability?
Nah, I'm just not that scared of you.
Sonic, he stopped your spin dash, remember? With one hand, like it was nothing.
Everyone who hadn't been present for the event's faces were overtaken by shock. They had all seen how powerful the spin dash could be.
Well, sounds like Big Z here's the stronger one.
I'd like to test that one out.
We should have a sparring match then. I look forward to seeing how you fight.
Both you can look forward to being thrashed.
I doubt that, but I shall enjoy our fight nonetheless.
Big Spike Knuckles placed his right fist over his heart and lightly nodded.
Can we please hurry up and get back to the story? You done explained how your little brother is a repeat vehicle thief.
Right, of course. Don't worry, things get a lot less sad and a lot more cool from here on out. It all started when I decided to play a game of baseball by myself.
By yourself?
Shush, I'm on a roll now. No more interruptions. Anyway, I could play every part on the baseball field, all except the admiration and support from my teammates. Then I got upset and that whole big blow lightning explosion and caused a blackout across the entire Pacific Northwest.
What? You knocked out power to an area larger than France?
Never mind that. Do you mean to tell us you did that by yourself? Completely naturally? With no Chaos Emerald or anything like that?
Yes, I did.
Copper Knuckles tried to process what he had just heard. The intense levels of chaos energy he had been sensing was completely natural and normal to them. He'd never seen a regular living being have so much chaos energy. These three went in the face of everything he knew about chaos energy. And the more he thought about it, the more concerns he came up with. For one thing, it would react to their emotions like chaos energy often did, powered, enriched by the heart, and all that. Azure Sonic had already caused 2 huge power blackouts by getting upset. Who knows what else they could do? Copper Knuckles groaned and leaned back until he was lying on the floor staring at the ceiling.
Are you okay there, Copper Knuckles?
I'm fine. Just keep going.
If you say so. So, I picked up on that fake blast of energy all the way from my home planet. That was when I started watching Sonic. I didn't have any friends growing up, so seeing Sonic, who was weird like I was amazing to me. But I don't come in until much later.
Yeah? Tails wasn't the only one who caught onto me after that. The head government guys got together and sent their unconditional guy after me, Robotnik.
Your Eggman is a government agent?
He was. Anyway, started to send all his freaky drones after me, and I had to get ready to leave the planet. The next safe world with a breathable atmosphere was a planet entirely made of mushrooms. It was awful. But they were too close and I couldn't risk them following me through. So I went to the only person I could think of, the Donut Lord.
I'm sorry, who?
Donut Lord. That's the nickname I used for Dad before he became my dad. Oh, and Mom's nickname is Pretzel Lady. But anyway, I broke into his shed, and just before I threw the ring, he saw me, panicked, and shot me with Mom's tranquilizer gun, and I lost my rings through the portal that opened to San Francisco when I dropped the ring I was holding.
Well, that sounds like it's not off to the best start.
Your dad wasn't too happy that he was now responsible for escorting a super-powered alien kid on a multi-day road trip while escaping from an evil scientist guy with a mustache. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. That punch him in the face, it was so awesome.
Punched him in the face, eh? Now I can see why Vixie accepted him as a father figure.
The Lord of Sonets is not hesitant to throw a punch to protect those in need. It is admirable.
And after a whole trip bonding, we got into a car chase. Then one thing led to another and I got her. Luckily, Mom was staying with her sister in the place we were headed, and she was able to make me better cause she's a vet.
Well, Val was pretty lucky.
It really was. While there, my cousin Juju gave me new shoes. They were the first gift I ever got. Then because Dad's car was totaled, we took Aunt Rachel's car.
Now, when you say take, you mean...
Borrowed without permission.
Oh, so you've done it too?
Hey, she got it back, just a lot more smashed up.
I can't believe this. Well, you are an entire family of vehicle thieves.
Come to think of it, did Rachel steal a golf cart at her fake wedding?
Yep, and she tried to run over Randall. No wonder she warmed up to you the fastest.
The room was once again puzzled but turned to Big Spike Knuckles.
Why are you all staring at me?
Everyone else in your family has stolen the car.
Cousin Giorgio has not.
Not yet, at least.
Oh, she will.
You two better not be planning to corrupt our cousin.
Oh, us? We would never.
I do not believe you.
No, it was my fault for bringing it off. But can we please get to the stories? Those two haven't even shown up yet.
Okay, so we got to the place where my rings fell, and I was all ready to say my goodbyes and go live forever on that uninhabited mushroom planet. Then Robotnik shows up, and somehow he has one of my quills. I don't know when or where he got it from, but anyway, he used it to power his ship and was able to catch up with me no matter where it went.
Wait a minute. You're telling me one of your quills was enough to power an entire ship the same way that Amber Tails is using a Chaos Emerald?
I guess so. We don't really know how it works.
I'm done. Just keep going.
Don't worry, I'm almost done with the first adventure. So I couldn't lose him, and the only place I could think of was Green Hills. So I ended up there and he followed me. But he blasted me with a rocket and I couldn't get up. Then a bunch of people in town gathered to help me. Carl even threatened him with a chainsaw. Carl was the one guy who knew about me. Dad's best friend, Wade, nearly shot him too. That got to punch him again, and then I charged up. Dad threw a ring to the mushroom planet and used my spin dash to send him through the ring. After that, the government cleaned it up, pretended he never existed, and tried to track me down. But Mom and Dad took me in and gave me a place to stay. They looked after me for the next few months, even though I didn't quite see them as parents yet.
Now, can you guys just please leave the questions to the end?
Everyone nodded, but they doubted it with last one.
The next adventure, as my brother called it, begins because of me. I believed that Longclaw's apprentice was the key to find the Master Emerald. So I searched for Sonic, and my quest led me to a barren world. When I was ascending the volcano, it erupted and I fell. It was not enough to seriously harm me, but it was enough to weaken me and allow scavengers to pick me up. They took me to the finals arena of Casino Night and tossed me in as the challenger. It was well known that I am the last Echidna, and with my reputation of the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy, I was a valuable fighter. They had been trying to recapture me for years, so when they finally got me, they put forth their greatest champion, a massive beast with many heads and crab-like claws. It had defeated many skilled fighters before, but with my power, it did not take much to defeat the beast, and after my victory, I was awarded rings. The scavengers were skilled at finding things, and I asked them for their help in tracking down Sonic.
Now this is where I come in. I heard that Knuckles was searching for Sonic, and I knew I had to go warn him, but didn't know what planet he was on. So I gathered my inventions and set out, tracking whatever chaos energy signatures I could.
The scavengers were also searching for Sonic, but instead they tracked Tails. We eventually picked up on a huge surge of energy and tracked it to the Mushroom Planet. That is where I met Robotnik. He still had Sonic's quill, and I knew exactly what it was. So in exchange for me getting him off the planet, he would tell me where Sonic was.
Alright, so remember the wedding thing from earlier. My parents were going to that and left me home alone. I definitely didn't trash the place and was perfectly well behaved. So I was sitting down to watch a movie and there was a blackout. Not my fault this time. That was when it got really creepy and Eggman appeared at the door.
That was when I showed up and punched him through the wall, and we had a very one-sided battle. And I had him pinned to a tree, ready to deliver the killing blow.
And that was the moment I hit Knuckles with the police car.
Finally, they had got to the part where Tails hit Knuckles with a car that had been bugging everyone for ages.
So you three.
We are not finished.
Okay, so Tails stops Knuckles from killing me, and this big car chase happens, and then he drives us off a cliff intentionally.
Hey, it gave us a chance to escape, didn't it?
While those two made their escape, Robotnik confronted me. He must have overheard me speak to Sonic about the Master Emerald, because he offered to be my Earth guide. He had been nothing but helpful, so I made an alliance with him.
It told me that if anything went wrong, I was to go see Wade. So Tails and I went to his place, and the map Longclaw gave me glowed, and it showed a message from her. It showed us where to find the compass leading to the Master Emerald. So then we headed to Siberia. Nearly got tossed into a fire, saved ourselves with a dance battle, and set out in the morning to collect the compass.
That was a story everyone wanted to hear, but another detour probably wouldn't be appreciated.
Robotnik and his minion, the Goat Milker, had found a way to track Sonic and Tails, and let them lead us to the compass. Robotnik chose to ditch his minion, who had shown loyalty to him. This was when I began to grow suspicious of him. But my quest was too important. I stayed with him. We intercepted them at the temple and intended to take the compass from them.
Sonic and I got the compass, but Robotnik's missiles caused a collapse and we had to flee. I took to the skies, and Sonic and Knuckles had this big snowboard chase down the mountain. And Sonic nearly convinced Knuckles over to our side by talking to him about the day they both lost everything. But then I fired a taser trap at Knuckles and he thought it was all just a trick.
Do not blame yourself. I had Sonic backed against the cliff. Your action is understandable now.
Then Knuckles got angry at us because he thought we tricked him and went to attack me, so I threw the compass to Tails, but Robotnik got in the way, grabbed it, and used missiles to cause an avalanche and knock out Tails.
Sonic chose to help Tails over pursuing the compass. Robotnik dismissed this as weakness.
So the avalanche was coming at us super fast, and Tails couldn't fly us out of there. So I told Dad and asked him to use the ring I gave him earlier. He didn't brought me Tails, and a whole bunch of snow to the wedding all the way in Hawaii. Remember how I mentioned the wedding was fake? Well, it turns out the government created a new task force just to keep an eye on me and other alien threats. 30 units of nations. Done. Maybe you have them here. I don't know. And they were trying to marry into the family so they could keep an eye on me, but once they saw us right in front of them, they all revealed themselves and locked us up. On the bright side, they got to punch more people, and Mom and Auntie Rachel pulled an awesome rescue mission with Tails' inventions.
While that happened, Robotnik and I made our way to the location indicated by the compass and placed it where it needed to be.
You should have seen the beam of light. It was massive.
Yes, the intensity of the beam had been a surprise to say the least. The power of the emerald split the sea open and revealed an ancient temple. As we made our way through the temple, we watched each other's backs, and I believed a warrior's bond had formed.
The distressed look on Big Spike Knuckles said a lot. They could all guess what was coming up soon.
After the rescue, Tails was still unconscious and I felt responsible for what happened to him and didn't want anyone else getting hurt because of me and ran off before anyone could stop me.
With Robotnik's help, I had reached the chamber of the Master Emerald. But before I could reach it, Sonic fell from the ceiling and we fought over it. This battle was not as one-sided as our first clash, but I was still able to bring Sonic to my mercy. I was ready to crush him when he pointed out that Robotnik had used our fight as an opportunity to take the emerald for himself. He revealed his true intentions and escaped with the emerald.
Without the emerald, the temple collapsed and the water came pouring in.
Coldbolt Sonic's ear twitched at the sound of that.
I got trapped under a fallen pillar and was unable to escape the rising water.
Coldbolt Sonic gripped his arms tightly and grimaced.
I saved Knuckles from drowning. He saved me from drowning. Then we made peace on the beach.
Then I showed up with the plane. I picked them up. Then we headed to Green Hills where Robotnik was headed.
Okay, finally we're at the final battle. Here we go.
When we got there, Robotnik was already using the emerald's power to create something. When the smoke cleared, an impossibly huge robot towered over Green Hills.
Our best attacks did nothing. Alone, we could not beat him.
But then we teamed up and attacked together. But with an actual plan. He hated me the most, so I distracted him while Knuckles and Tails snaked around back.
I cut a hole in the side of his robot and distracted him with my holograms while Knuckles got ready.
Once I was in position, I prepared my power and knocked the emerald out of him, bringing him and his robot to their knees.
But the battle wasn't over yet. Robotnik must have had some kind of backup power because the robot got up and was ready to crush me. I managed to grab the emerald and Mom and Dad rescued me using a truck from one of the other guys in town before Robotnik stepped on me with the guy and robot. But he still managed to prevent us from escaping. I tried to use the Master Emerald, but its color faded and it fell to pieces. All hope seemed lost, but Mom and Dad chose to stay with me until the end. But then the Chow's emeralds that were within the Master Emerald rose up and I got to be this cool golden god thing and I kicked Robotnik's butt and we won.
The overwhelming power of the emerald was known to have a corrupting effect, and I feared that Sonic would now be our opponent. But Sonic proved that to be false. The emerald's power amplified the thoughts and feelings had when it is used. Sonic's were pure, the hedgehog only acting on a desire to protect his family.
Yeah, and Savage Dog.
Copper Knuckles groaned to add Citron Tails' words. Did he use the power of the Chaos Emeralds for a simple street snack?
I chose to give up the emerald's power. Being a hero can be great, but I'm not done being a kid yet.
Once the Chaos Emeralds were sent away, I gathered the shards of the Master Emerald and reforged it. I finally had it, but I didn't know what to do next. The owls and a kid that fought for a long time for the emerald, both sides believing they should be the ones to guard it, and in the process wiping each other out. We chose to let the conflict die with them. We formed a new tribe and made a vow to protect the Master Emerald and protect each other. Streets.
And that's pretty much it. Knuckles and Tails moved in and we've been learning to be a family.
Most of the room were trying to gather their thoughts. Amy was the first to say something.
Wait, so in your world, Earth and your home planets are in the same galaxy? And you have a way to travel between them with ease?
Yeah,
Then why are you staying on Earth?
Because it's our home.
Wait, if they moved in and are staying on Earth, how are you guarding the Master Emerald?
We keep it with us and Tails has been improving the security system.
Copper Knuckles wanted to ask about Angel Island, but his counterpart had not mentioned it, and if the Master Emerald had been hidden on Earth, Angel Island would be nothing like he knew. Amber Tails and Chris looked over at Copper Knuckles, tried to process what he had been learning about the other worlds, Chaos Energy, and Master Emerald.
Should we tell him that it's tiny?
I don't think so. The whole thing has been confusing enough.
The brother trio sat on the couch awkwardly, telling their story had taken a lot from them, and they could tell the others wanted to bombard them with questions. Cream felt sorry for the trio and wanted them to feel better.
Ella, can I take them to my favorite flower patch? I want to make them some flower crowns.
If they want to, of course he can, dear. Just be safe.
Cream cheered and ran up to them.
Would you three like to come make flower crowns with me?
The trio only needed one glance with each other to know the answer.
We would love to Cream.
Azure Sonic led his brothers over to the little rabbit.
Hey, what about our questions?
Amy stepped in front of them as they walked.
Do you mind asking them a bit later? We kinda need a break.
The young masters have shown a great deal of trust in us by opening up and speaking of such a troubled past. The least we can do is respect their boundaries.
Come on, Cheese and I already have ideas for what flowers to use.
Cream grabbed the arms of Azure, Sonic, and Citron Tails and began to pull them towards the garden. Big Spike Knuckles went to follow them, but paused in front of Ella.
Caretaker Ella, do not be worried. I shall watch over them and keep them safe. No harm will come to the young rabbit while she makes us crowns of flowers.
Big Spike Knuckles placed a hand over his heart and bowed his head respectfully before following the others out into the garden.